Welcome to another Pokemon TCG Tabletop gameplay video. Today we're going to be playing at a Pokemon League Cup, and the winner of this match actually makes it into the top 8. So, we have a fun game of my Miraidon EX box versus Charizard EX with Pidgeot and Dusknoir. We'll see how I fare against Charizard for this time around, and of course, if you guys want to support the channel, the absolute best way to do so is by hitting that like button down below and checking out the sponsors of the channel, Comfy Hobbies and Endgame TCG. I'll leave them linked down below for your Pokemon cards and TCG sleeve needs. Here is the 60 card list I'm using for this particular League Cup. It is my regular Miraidon EX box. However, we swapped out the Zapdos EX in place for the Zeraora that can do some bench sniping. Zeraora is really good. It actually helped me win a couple matches today at the League Cup, and I would highly recommend giving it a shot. And I can't wait to show you guys my Mega Manectric deck. I'll be continuing to refine it and even get some gameplays for some other stuff. I've been playing Mega Latias EX lately as well. Now is the perfect time to subscribe if you haven't yet already. Let's see if we can get this video to 200 thumbs up. That would mean a lot to me, and I'll have more and more gameplays on the channel. We're pumping them out. We won the coin toss and chose second here, and our opponent's gonna draw and top deck the Buddy Poffin turn 1. And as he does his deck search here, I want to mention that this player here, we actually, he knows of me from TikTok. He found me through TikTok content and then stumbled across my YouTube channel that way. So shout out to you if you've come across me outside of YouTube first. It's really cool to get sort of collectors into the game. That's one of the biggest themes I've seen. They see my competitive stuff and they're like, oh, there's a game to this? Let's give it a shot. So here we go. We're going to see the prize check-in go down. My opponent decides to move all of the Pokemon to the front. That's exactly how I like to prize check as well. And we also talked about prize checking before. This was his first time playing in sort of a best of 3 style of tournament where if you make it into Top Cut, it's best of 3. He's never played at a regional before either, so after the game was done, we talked about different methods for prize checking. I highly recommend, if you're strapped for time, just look for your one-of copies or the very particular cards for the matchups that help you win it. So, now Buddy Poffin's going to get them a Charmander and a Pidgey. We're going to drop in Academy at Night, our stadium that legally stacks our cards. And we're going to use a tandem unit to start getting our Pokemon onto the board. One of the best features about Miraidon EX is we don't have to rely on item cards to get our Pokemon. All we have to do is see a Miraidon, and then all our Pokemon can come out to play. That's why it's been still a really solid choice for players, just because that ability is so strong. You're going to have a consistent deck almost automatically. You know, there's going to be those games where you don't have Miraidon available, and it feels pretty rough. But you have so many ball cards as well that you can search out. So our main attacker in this matchup is going to be Iron Hands to kick things off. We're going to grab a Tynamo as well, so we can have a Energy Acceleration Pokemon for later in the game. Here we're going to play an Ultra Ball, discarding 1 Lightning Energy here. And a little painful of a decision here, but I did remember, I did think we saw the Squawk in the deck, or we might have a Carmine we might play as well. So let's see what I discard here. We're discarding a Boss's Orders. Ooh, that's actually one mention I also want to talk about for this game. I took out the Pokegear and I put in a 3rd copy of Boss's Orders for that extra consistency for Boss's Orders. And of course, when you have to discard Boss's Orders on your turn 1, it feels really awful if you only have 2 copies. We do play Counter Catcher, we do play Prime Catcher, but you know, having more copies of Boss's Orders in a Miraidon deck is never a bad thing. So we decided to grab the Squawk, and we're discarding the Boss because we're going to have to Squawk away our hand anyways. It's no big deal. So here we're going to play Generator. We hit the 1 because we stacked it, and there's the second one from the Generator just off the second card. And now we begin the Energy Acceleration race right here. One thing I love about Academy at Night is you of course can guarantee those lightning energies for the generators, so it's very helpful for turn 1, or it's also very helpful for saving a card that you don't want to discard with either Carmine or a Squawkabilly. Alright, so here we go, squawking for a brand new hand of 6 cards. Let's see what we're able to pull out from the Squawk and Seize. We're going to go Nest Ball here, and what we want to see is a way to pivot our Miraidon so we can actually retreat and then attack with Iron Hands on this next turn. So we got our Latias EX on the board, which is our guaranteed pivot option. Now unfortunately Latias is weak to dark, so the second we went for this play, we kind of accepted the fact that our Squawk and our Latias are going to be some easy targets for our opponent to knock out. So we're just going to go for that straight up race of that 2-2-2 and try and initiate that race on this turn. Now, one thing to notice for our Miraidon list is we don't play Bravery Charm. Usually Bravery Charm is like the S tier tool to have in Miraidon, especially against decks like Charizard, especially if they can't get some Duskulls out on the board so they can pop and do some extra damage. But here we don't play any Bravery Charms. So that does mean that if we do go for an Ampy very much, that our opponent will be able to instantly return KO, which does feel pretty awful. So that's why we're grabbing the Magneton here, because we're expecting like a plan B. Is if we don't hit the 2 off this generator, we're going to go Arm Press, and that way they can't knock us out, in theory, depending on what A-Spec our opponent is playing. So we just hit the 1 there. So we can go Arm Press for the safe attack and only take 1 prize, not guarantee the guaranteed return KO on our hands. But I do know I want to go for the hands here. I want to get the Ampy very much going. So knowing that we're going to have so much energies in the discard pile after they knock out our Iron Hands EX is the reasoning why I have both Dynamo and Magnemite. Usually you don't need to have both, but for this case, I wanted to play it extra safe so we can just chain our attackers attack after attack after attack, because that's what you need to do in this matchup. You just need to go 2-2-2. So we're going to go attach return here. That was me deciding what I want to do. We're going to discard Zekrom EX, which was really, really painful to do. But I did know we had Super Rod in our deck available. So you would eventually have to Super Rod our Zekrom back so we can do the tandem unit and go for a big KO that way. But Zekrom is a tech attacker, kind of our 1-hit KO game closer other than Blood Moon Ursaluna. So here I am playing the Super Rod. We're going to stack the Zekrom and an energy back into the deck. And here I am thinking about, do I want to put the extra lightning energy in the deck? I decided not to. And honestly, maybe I could have if I wanted my generators to cook extra hard later. But it doesn't hurt to have some more energies in the discard pile as well. So our Dynamo and our Magnemite or Magneton will get extra value. Now, Dynamotor is only 1 energy per turn, but Magneton is going to be 3. So we're going to get a draw for turn here. We have an Evolve into Pidgeotto. This is the free retreat option that they have on the board, and now they're down to 1 Pidgeotto and 1 Charmander. Now in this matchup in particular, it's really better to go for the Pidgeot EX, because the Pidgeot EX is the lifeblood of Charizard EX decks. So if you can take down sort of like the brains, you could say, of the deck, it makes the matchup a little easier compared to, you know, having to play against a deck that gets a quick search every single turn. Now Pidgeot is weak to lightning, so we do have that going for us. But if they're also just able to go 2-2-2, we're in a really bad position as well. So that nest ball for the Pheasantipity is pretty standard. You expect to see that, and we're going to see what they get off of Flip the Script here in just a second. 1, 2, 3. So we see a Duskull, Charizard, and an Arven. We see a Jacques in hand, Max Belt in hand, and a bench of Duskull. So having the Max Belt is very, very scary for this deck. It makes it even easier for Charizard to knock out whatever it wants to. And that's bad for us because we don't have charms. But with the power of Maximum Belt and the Ghost, Charizard is going to get to really run rampant and take some prizes here. Now I want to also mention, in this matchup, our opponent is also using Endgame. So both myself and my opponent are rocking Endgame. I'm rocking the red, Poppy Red Endgame Genesis, and my opponent is rocking the red Omega. So a lot of players love the Omega because the texture on the sleeves just feels so nice. And I love the shade of red that they use for the Genesis here. So I'm hoping one day they release Omegas in this nice Poppy Red colorway, because the dark red they use for the Genesis is sort of like a burgundy dark deep red. Alright, so here we go. We got the Rare Candy Charizard onto the board, and they're going to get that Infernal Rain for 2 fire energies. And now we are scared because they do have Return KO guaranteed into our Iron Hands EX. And that means we're going to have to figure out how are we going to take our next 2 prizes with a massive Charizard in our face. It's pretty bad. In this point of the game, I really do wish we had something like Iron Bundle in our deck. Because if we had something like an Iron Bundle, that means we could just get this Charizard out of the way and have an easier time exploding our Magneton and going for something like the Fez for 2 prizes, or maybe Amp again, knocking out the Pidgeotto or the Duskull. So here we're going to promote the Latias EX, our go-to free retreat pivot, so just always promote that, no reason not to. And let's see what I do on this turn here. We're going to go Ultra Ball to kick things off, discarding, and maybe an Iron Hands here. Discarding Iron Hands is always painful, especially if we've already discarded one earlier in the game. So we're down 2 Iron Hands now, and we've also discarded an Iono, so we're also down 1 Iono out of the 2 as well. Iono is really important in this matchup, just because, you know, we want to make sure our opponent doesn't have everything they need in their hand at all times. But when your opponent gets to play with Flip the Script and Pidgeot, you already know it's going to be an uphill battle, unless we can take down one of those threats. But right now, the main threat we're going to have to deal with is that 330 HP Charizard. That is absolutely massive. So here I am trying to brainstorm what play I want to make. There's a couple different lines we could go for, but since we're in Ultra Ball, we're going to grab the guaranteed Dynamotor for our Dynamo to evolve into our Electric. And I think we're going to go for a Tapu Koko here play maybe. We've got the Air Balloon. Air Balloon is always going to go on the Electric. Electric is our only Pokemon in our deck other than Maractus that has the 2 retreat cost. We're going to bench the Tapu Koko, attach, and also Dynamotor. So here, because our Iron Hands was knocked out by damage on the previous turn, Tapu Koko EX is a really clutch attacker in several matchups, and this is one of those cases where it's really useful. So we're going to hit them with our last copy of Iono in the deck. They had like a huge hand of maybe 7 cards or 6. They're going to drop down to 4, and now on our turn, we're going to have a Tapu Koko that can not just hit for the 30, it's going to swing for 120 and paralyze, and we've also evolved our Magnemite into a Magneton as well, meaning that that the Duskull, if it explodes when it evolves into a Dusclops, they can't instantly knock out our other form of energy acceleration, which would have been the 50 HP Magnemite. So here, we're going to go Tapu Koko's attack, hit him for that 120, and also paralyze. So this is where things are looking pretty good for me. They only have 1 Zard on the board, but what's scary is if they have a Pidgeot EX, maybe they... Actually, no. They don't have another Charmander, but if they had another Charmander on the board, it could get scary if they had like a Professor Turo scenario, or if they play Switch, they could easily go Switch into the Pidgeot. Like, they could get Pidgeot EX, Quick Search Switch into the Pidgeot EX, and then retreat for free, and then swing again with Charizard. So here we're going to see an Arven for Ultra Ball. Sorry, Ultra Ball get played, discarding an Arven, I believe. Them grabbing Pidgeot EX. And now this is when things get a little dicey here. They have a 1-card hand, but they have Quick Search and Flip the Script for 3 available. So we're going to see the Quick Search pop off first. Let's see what our opponent decides to grab here. I think you definitely want to set up another Charmander just so they can chain Charizards back to back. And we, of course, have our Academy at Night Stadium, which they might want to bump later on. So they're going to grab an Arven and just play the Arven right away. Arven is going to grab them. Let's see what the grab is. I would expect maybe like a Buddy Poffin, and I don't know what other tools they play other than Max Belt and Evo TM. And they can't really use Evo TM here. Charizard has a Max Belt on it already. And again, Charizard's paralyzed. We didn't tilt it sideways, but they can't attack, they can't retreat. So they grabbed an Evo TM here and a Buddy Poffin. And my opponent says here that he misplayed. I'm not sure what the misplay was, but there we go. We got the Charmander on the board. Maybe our opponent could have like Quick Search for Artisan instead to bump our Stadium and then get the Commander out, and then maybe they could like Fez into something else and get a useful supporter that way that they could use. But now they have double Duskull on the board, and that's pretty scary, and they have a full board. So we have 2 ghosts to worry about, Pidgeot EX, Fez, and Charmander. We have a 2-card hand. One card we know is going to be Evo TM. And now they're deciding what the next play is. Looks like they have Briar in hand already as well. Briar is a deadly card in this matchup. I think they Fez and I didn't catch it earlier. Alright, so... Actually, no, we didn't take a knockout. They don't have Fez available. We didn't take a knockout because we did paralyze them. Alright, so here we go. On our turn, we are going to possibly painfully explode this Magneton, which would just be a death sentence for us if they just go with the Briar play the next turn. So now our opponent is at 3 prizes remaining, We're going to accelerate 3 lightning energies to our lightning Pokemon. That is going to be a Miraidon EX. Now, unfortunately, our bench is pretty full. We have 1 spot left, but I wish that we had, you know, an easier attacker that could get the job done other than Miraidon. And this is where things get a little dicey for us here. We have Nest Ball. We can play it, and we still have Dynamotor available as well. But I just know in the back of my head that because we're about to take a 2-prize knockout here, that if they have Briar, Charizard, Rare Candy, they straight up just win the game. So here I'm just thinking about the worst possible scenario, which is always what you want to do when you're playing. You know, if you're playing, you always want to think from your opponent's perspective, what is the best possible play that they can make. So if you can try play around that, that's always good. Here I'm like, oh, I wish I had an Iono available, but we're out of Ionos here, so we can't get their hand down any thinner. And again, with them having Pidgeot EX, it's just so easy for them to find what they need, and they have the Fez as well. So even if we were to Iono them in this scenario, they still have Fez, they still have Quick Search. So there's a way for them to really dig for that Rare Candy Zard Briar play. So here we decided to go for the Mew EX instead of the Zekrom. I thought about grabbing a Zekrom here, but I also wanted additional draw, and I figured we could just genome hacking the Charizard's attack for game if it came down to it. So we attached and Dynamoted to the Mew EX. We're going to restart for 1, and we're going to go Photon Blaster for the knockout. And that's one of the nice things about having Dynamotor is Magneton can only accelerate energies to Lightning Pokemon, but Magneton can only accelerate energies to Lightning Pokemon. The Electric with Dynamotor can go anywhere, so you can usually charge up Mew or some other Pokemon as well. So here we have Quick Search. They're just going to Quick Search the Charizard, and it looks like they have the Rare Candy Zard in hand already, and the Briar. So all they have to do is Rare Candy Charizard here. And if they have only 2 energies, or only 1, they would lose, but they have 2 energies, the exact amount remaining in their deck for their Fire Charizard to pop off here. They got the Briar, and we get cooked. GG's. Thanks so much for watching me get destroyed by Charizard. If you want to see me pop off in some other games perhaps, here's me playing Hop Station against Miraidon. Here's me playing Miraidon against Grimmsnarl. Click one of these videos, and I'll catch you guys over there.